Canada, which is approximately the geographical center of Canada. And so we're far from the coast of the water, that kind of stuff. So we're right in the middle, and it's summertime for us. So for us, it's our summer break. So our classes typically go from September to June, and we have the summer months off. I've had a wide variety of experiences with teaching in the last while. It's been actually, I started off as a music teacher actually, and I've taught every grade from kindergarten to grade 12 in music. And then I've spent most the back part of my career in academics with mostly grade 7, 8 students. And then the last little piece of my last few years, I've been working with teacher coaching. And so I've been working on as an instructional support coach with the teachers here in the division. And so I would go into different classrooms and we kind of look at different problems or whatever and try and find a solution together to help with student achievement. So that's what we've been doing.
So I would like to ask you one question. Actually, you have recently retired from your services. So what should be the retirement age in Canada?
So can I get the, I've had a few microphones on, so if we could get people to mute their microphones so I can just hear the speaker.
Sriram sir, please mute your microphone, sir. Sriram sir.
Thank you. It makes me hear better. What's your question again?
Yeah, what I am going to ask is that you have recently retired from your services. So what should be the retirement age in Canada?
What is the age?
Yeah, retirement.
My kids this last year were 12 and 13 years old. But is that the right question?
No, actually, what is the retirement age in Canada?
What time is it?
Retirement age.
What time is it?
No. Are you not able to hear me clearly?
Not very clear.
Not clear. Okay, then I would like to give to the other participants to ask you some questions.
Sir, Marian sir, what is the retirement age in Canada for a teacher?
The recommended age?
Yeah, at what age teachers in Canada retire?
Okay, I've been working with some university students. Usually it takes, right now it's a double degree program to become a teacher in Canada. So teachers here will go to a general university program, probably an arts program or a science program for 4 years. And then they have 2 years of teacher training after that. So they'll end up with a Bachelor of Education and a Bachelor of whatever else they studied. So it's usually about 6 years to become a teacher in Canada.
So I think what you didn't catch the point is actually what is the question is, what is the retirement age for the teachers in Canada? So at what age they get retired from?
Okay.
When do they retire?
Yeah.
I hear you now. Retirement age is early retirement is 55, and people can go up to 65 or longer if they want. So the average teacher is going to retire about 59, 60 kind of thing is what the statistical average is.
Okay. Yeah. So
Thank you.
Ramesh sir, go ahead and ask the question, sir. I'm going to start with you, sir.
Shall I ask, sir?
Yes, sir.
Is my voice audible?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I am Ramesh from Andhra Pradesh. I am working as a textbook development coordinator here. For the last 15 years, I am associated with the State Educational Research and Training Institute, sir.
Ah.
I have 30 years of experience as a teacher. I would like to know about the primary education system in Canada.
Okay. Yeah, sounds, you got a lot of service in there. That sounds fantastic. So I want to start by saying that everybody who's teaching around the world has a very, very important job. Our primary students here start in kindergarten, which is 5 years old, anywhere in
Okay.
that calendar year. And so they start with, most often it's going to be a half day kindergarten. Some are going full day kindergartens now. And then grade 1 to 6 is the primary years for the kids. So our primary would be kindergarten to grade 6, 7 and 8 usually considered to be middle years, and then the 9 to 12 would be the senior years. And so they would graduate about in their 18th year.
Okay. So Ramesh sir, do you have any supplementary question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, at what age students take admission at primary level, sir? At what
they'll be
age?
5.
5 years. Okay. Before that, is there any schooling system at school level or at home level, sir? Before the 5 years, is there
Yeah.
any education resources?
Yes, there are opportunities to go to preschool, which is
Okay.
public system. So there's opportunities for that. It depends on the family and what they choose to do, whether they would want to have their son or daughter in preschool or not. That's an option.
Uh-huh. What is the duration of primary school education, sir? What is the duration? How many years the student should undergo primary school?
Often the preschool would be probably 1 to 2 years kind of thing, getting them ready for school. And so I was part of a team that went out and did some preliminary evaluations with the primary students. Actually, just before they came into kindergarten. So they'd be 5 years old or less. And we would test them on certain skills, fine motor skills, comprehension, can they count, those kinds of skills. And so it was a program called the IDA, Early Years Evaluation Program, Direct Assessment. And we would just go and find out what skills were lacking in these students. And therefore, we could go back to the preschool and say, here's areas where a cluster of your kids are showing weakness, and they could work on those. But proactively, we'd have this report, this profile of each student, and we could go into the kindergarten teacher and say, here's the profile of your student. They have strengths in this area. They have a little bit of weakness in this area. And that's something that they could personalize the programming right at the very beginning of the year for them.
Okay, sir. I want to know one more thing about Canadian education system, sir. Is there any multilingual situation at schools, sir? Is the student mother language continued in the school or any other thing, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Multilingual situation is, sir.
Yeah, Canada is a very multicultural country. And so we have lots and lots of students with second languages. And so that's quite interesting. The teachers here are used to having multiple languages in the classroom. Sometimes the students know English and sometimes they do not. I had experience once where I had a girl, we have a famous ballet class troupe here in Winnipeg, and people travel from all over the world to come, and they go to school and they go dancing. And this girl got dropped off. She had an interpreter for half a day, and she was Japanese. She didn't know any English. We didn't know Japanese, and it was really, really hard.
Yes, sir.
I've got students from Korea and all over the world, actually. And so sometimes we'd use translators, sometimes we use online tools with them, but it's very difficult.
What is the main language in school, sir? What is the main language?
Canada has 2 official languages, French and English.
Okay.
And so you'll sign up for, where we live, you'd sign up for an English school and you'd have some French language study, or you would sign up for French immersion. So you're an English speaker and you want to learn French at a higher level. So they would be instructed in French, but they're from English speaking families. And the third type of school is French immersion. So these are French speaking families at home, and that they would come and learn in French.
Okay. Yes, sir. Shall I ask one more question, sir?
Sure.
Okay, sir. Sir, for example, if a student from Japanese language or any other language, how he face challenges in the school medium, sir, medium of instruction?
It's very difficult, very difficult. So usually we have a number of students around the building, and we say, hey, can you help us out? You know their mother tongue. Can you perhaps translate a little bit for us? Just help us with a few things. Sometimes an older sibling in the family will know some English.
I'm sorry, what? Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes we have translators that will come in and help us out. Sometimes we'll have older siblings that are more fluent in English, and we can get by with that way. So and I do use a lot of online materials.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Medium of instruction plays a vital role in the classroom teaching learning process. We are also facing the same problem with multiple languages, sir. That's why we want some solutions of what you are following at your level, sir. And thank you, sir. And one more question I want to take clarification regarding teachers and their training process, sir. How the teachers are
Being trained.
trained, sir?
Okay. That's I like that question. What happens is that they go through a university program, they decide they want to become teachers, they enter the faculty of education, and then they will go into practice teaching, practicum as they call it, and they're called a teacher candidate at that point. And what happens is they will go out into the schools. One of the universities will have them go out every Monday, and they'll join the same classroom for all year long. And then they have a 6-week block where they're together in that classroom with the cooperating teacher, and they get to watch and they get to practice a little bit. And as they get more and more experience, they will take on more of the role of the class. So they have a 6-week block in the fall and another 6-week block in the spring. So 12 weeks in classroom with kids. And they will do that 4 times.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much, sir, Ramesh Garu, for taking.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can anybody ask now? Saujanya ma'am, would you like to ask any question?
Yes, sir. May I?
Yes, sir. Please go.
Shall I, sir?
Hello.
Hello.
Shall I?
Yes, ma'am. Lakshmi Garu, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, good morning, sir. This is Lakshmi from Andhra Pradesh.
Good morning.
Yeah, sir, I have been working as a school assistant English in Andhra Pradesh, and now I am working in DIET Institute, which is a training institute for diploma in education student teachers. Yeah. So my question is, how can you implement inclusive education in your academics? Is there inclusive education? Is there inclusive education? And how can you impart the inclusive education among the students?
Among the
Inclusive education means, teacher trainings, and also how can you implement what steps you have been taken
to implement or to impart this inclusive education among the students?
Okay, I think I understand the question. We have a role of responsibility as educators to teach every student in the classroom. And so they come to us with varying abilities and varying skills and those kind of things. And so our teacher candidates, the ones in university, they're there to understand and get training in how to scale materials harder and easier for the different kids, and how can they assess learning of students that are clearly at different levels in their, like the last gentleman asked about language. Clearly you would evaluate someone with language differently than if it's their second language or third language. You'd evaluate them differently than someone who speaks English. The university students actually go through training to look at all the different levels in the curriculum and how they can scale it. What are the big ideas in each curriculum? What do we really, really want our students to know? What are the building blocks that they have to know? What's essential for them to know for future grades? And those are the skills that we ask them to learn with the different curriculum. In our particular area, they come up with a teaching degree and they can teach any subject, even though they might specialize in one area over another. But there would be a general classroom. So let's say you're a grade 3-4 teacher, you could probably be teaching 7 subjects to the children.
Right, very nice, sir. And can I know what methods do you follow while imparting this inclusive education in the classroom?
Methods. That's a really interesting question. The teaching methods is up to the teacher, really. So every teacher is going to kind of explore it differently. They will assess the needs of their kids and figure out the different paths. What a lot of teachers are now doing is they're going into project-based learning, where they can get a whole bunch of subjects integrated together. And with project-based learning, it's hands-on. The kids are learning and expressing their learning in different ways. So that's kind of a really unique way to take one project and see there's some writing skills involved in there. There's some research skills involved. There's some mathematical skills involved. And so that's kind of approach that many teachers are taking now.
Nice, very nice, sir. Thank you very much to clarify my doubts. Thank you, sir.
Nice talking to you.
I request all the participants, you all need to understand one thing. It is almost 12 p.m. in Canada. So let us give the chance to Warren to have a sleep. So let us permit ourselves with 1 or 2 questions so that we can
Yes.
some peace of mind.
Shall I, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Shall I, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm from Andhra Pradesh, Rekha, School Assistant Maths. Sir, what are the reasons for your success in online or digital teaching?
It's interesting. We've done online teaching this year because of the coronavirus, as you are all familiar with. The whole world's been struggling with that. And so this last year, instead of going around to school that I would typically do and work with teachers and students, I was assigned a class of online students. And so I had my students hadn't met each other before. We got online like this and we met, and I would try and build a classroom community. Like I tried really, really hard with the online students to build a community like we have with the regular kids in your classrooms that you have, like Harry's classroom like there. They would work as a group and become friends with each other. So I worked really hard with that skill with the kids, and then covering our content, the subjects that we need to do. We did that. We did that by sharing different things together, sharing our projects and how that would work. And it was really kind of an interesting year. Some kids, we found that this year, some kids who struggled in the physical classroom really did really well in the online environment because some of the distractions that they're used to, maybe the kids in Canada and North America are maybe not as polite as the students in India, but so sometimes they would get bugged and bullied or whatever it was, and they were able to concentrate and achieve really good work at home. Also, because they were at home and many parents were at home with, because workplaces were shut down, I had more parental support in my classes than I've ever had before. So I had parents that were, working with their children and being part of the education process. So that was really kind of neat.
Oh, okay. Sir, one more question. What are the strategies for rural areas to include students in the mainstream of education?
Can you repeat one more time? Mainstream of education?
Yes, rural area students.
Ma'am, could you please repeat the question?
Okay. What are the strategies for the rural areas to include the students in the mainstream of education?
Oh, the strategies for learning with the kids in education?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think the thing that you've got to do is you've got to really have them understand who they are as a learner. And so I can't really help them or prescribe a method to them until I understand them as a learner. Where are they starting from? Where have they been? So if possible, I will look at previous reports. I will talk to previous teachers, see what how they learn best and what works really well for them. And just like we talked about that kindergarten early years assessment tool, I find out what areas they have strengths in and what areas they have weaknesses in. And so we'll play off both those kinds of things. But you have to get to know your students as individuals, because if I try and teach my entire class the same way at the same time, we find it just isn't that successful. And so we need to personalize education as much as possible. It's hard to do. It's really hard. But if you can personalize the education for each of the kids, that'd be really powerful.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, any more participants, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good
I
morning.
would like to ask one more question, sir. Here, sir, do you have single teacher schools in Canada? If yes, are there any strategies to deal multi-grade or multi-classrooms?
Multi-level
Awesome
classrooms?
question, actually.
What?
Sir, pardon me, sir. Sorry.
Please unmute. Please unmute, sir. Somebody.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
what actually his question is, so are there any single teacher schools in Canada? If there are any single teacher schools in Canada, and what kind of strategies the single teacher has to adopt in order to teach all subjects?
Oh, very, very, very rare. Most of our schools will be, I would say in my area, most of our schools are, the primary schools would be probably 200 to 400 kids usually. And the high schools could be 600 to 1,000, kind of 1,500 kind of thing. But there, the one-room schoolhouse is not something that we do here. No, that'd be really hard.
Any more questions?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir,
Yes,
good
ma'am.
morning, sir. Good morning, sir. This is Mangarani. I am a teacher from Andhra Pradesh. I have been working as a primary teacher in the last 11 years. And I have a question for you, sir. What are the best strategies to develop reading and writing skills among the primary school children?
Okay, primary reading and writing. Here we go. There's a lot of pressure on students to read and write, isn't there? And that's a struggle for students always. Well, some more so than others, right? And it's kind of thing where I find that students will progress along, but sometimes some kids naturally take a little bit longer than others. It's kind of like, I've often thought of it in the process of students tying their shoes. Some kids get to figure out how to tie their shoes early, and some kids figure it out a little bit later. But there's very few kids running around when they're in high school not able to tie their shoes. So they do develop those skills. What kind of skills strategies do we use? When you're thinking about reading, we have lots of, in the very primary levels, we'll do a lot of reading to the kids, and they'll start working on sight words. They'll start sounding out words and looking at common combinations of letters. And so there's a lot of picture association with the picture and the word, and you can put that together. I have a grandson right now who's 2.5, and he's starting to pull these words together and see the different things. So I can see his eyes light up and grow. My other grandson's 5.5, so he's in kindergarten, and so he's starting to read a little bit, and he can sound out words a little bit, and you guide him along that way. There's the flip side of that. The reading is the comprehension. Can you understand what you've read? And so that's a very important thing to think about too. So some kids are really good at reading the words, but they can't tell you anything about what they just read. So the comprehension is not there. And so there's strategies in place there to kind of think about how can we absorb the meaning of what we're reading. And so some of our primary teachers are really experts at this kind of thing. We've been using it with some older students, a talk to the text strategy. So they'll look at a simple text and they'll say, what do I know in this text? What words do I know, and how do I know it? You know, is there a picture of a cat on the page, let's say? And so maybe they figure out this story is something about a cat, and they can figure out those kind of connections. At higher levels, you know, the kids are going to understand more of the words, but maybe get tripped up on some harder words. And so they'll highlight those words, talk to the text and say, I'm not sure what this means, but perhaps with what this further beginning paragraph is about and the later paragraphs, it means something like this. And so we use a strategy called talk to the text, where they will, in any subject, analyze the text. What do they know? How do they know it? And what are they unsure about? What do they wonder about? And so those are great things to have kids do and highlight for each other. And actually, we've done it as a group too. So when they look at their materials, they'll say, I know this because, and that'll help other kids make the associations as well. So I think the other question was on writing, right?
Yes, sir.
So with writing, the children with writing, we know that writing is kind of like a process. There's things that make up a good sentence, and there's things that don't really fit well. So once they've learned the strategies to put together good sentences and good paragraphs, we'd like to build checklists. Have you got these kind of functions in your sentence? Do they make sense? Do they scale together? Do the words connect? In my grade 7 and 8 students, I'll say, okay, you've used the word fun 3 times in this paragraph. Can you use a different word to describe what's going on here? Something that's a little bit more sophisticated. And so I get them to think about what I was calling them juicy words or power words. How could they make their story, their writing more interesting, rather than using words that they were just the easy ones for them, right? And so I asked them, how could I make this writing more interesting for the reader? And could you write this in a different way? And so they practiced lots and lots of different drafts. And I get the kids to read their things through and revise them, read and revise and those kind of things. And it really, once they know the structure that they need to put together in the writing and they practice it, and we have a checklist, that's something that they find is helpful. And I get them to share their writing with each other so they can come up with some really cool ideas. I did something which was kind of fun, where I would give them a starting sentence and I'd say, okay, let's build a story from here. We would do it. I would do one myself, then it's I do, we do, and then you do. I'm sure you're familiar with that technique. And so we would start off with a sentence and build a little story around it. And so then I get them to work on their own story. And it's really kind of fascinating how they share their stories and what happened in their stories and with the same starting sentence. So that's kind of a fun project for kids to do.
Thank you, sir. I have one more question for you, sir.
Sure.
You said you are a music teacher. How music is helpful in elementary education?
Oh, the power of music universally is well known, right? Around the world, we all have different kinds of music, and it's the power to stimulate the mind, concentrate, bring pleasure, bring sadness, mood, whatever. But it also has proven that when you're playing music, you're being creative. And so it uses your brain in a different way. And by using your brain in a different way, you are able to kind of form neuron pathways in your brain so that you can actually learn things more efficiently. There's lots of things about language and about math as well that are very strong with music. The rhythmic patterns that come up, and that builds math skills and those kinds of things. When you think about reading music, if you think about Western music or what music that's written down, I don't have any music in front of me here, but they're learning to decode whatever the notes are on the page. And that's a similar skill to what they're doing with words when they're reading words on a page. Once they figure out the code of how to make that music go together up and down and how it all correlates, they go, okay, that's kind of what we're doing with when we're reading words. And so the connection there is obvious, and they build into that. When you think of the rhythm of music and the pulse and those kind of things, that builds into structure of pieces and fractions and stuff in mathematics. So there's lots of really strong connections with music and education. Very important.
Very nice, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful answers, sir.
Any more
Thank
questions?
you, Krishna, sir.
Ma'am,
Thank you so much, sir.
it's our pleasure, ma'am. So any more questions?
Yeah, sir. Can I interact with him?
Yes, ma'am. But I have to tell you one thing. Here we have only 2 minutes time is left in this pre-Zoom slot. So once
Okay.
2 minutes are completed, so you can continue.
So
I am going to end this session. Or I will be back within 1 minute to another session. So I don't want to trouble you. Just a few more questions with me.
okay. So can I ask or not?
Yeah, I would like to end this session, ma'am. I would like to start with one for you. So please click the same link so that we can get.
Okay. Sure, sir.